a few things. If you wish to speak on any agenda or non-agenda items, you must submit a speaker card. The cards are located at the table immediately outside our board grounds. Speaker cards must be submitted prior to the close of the public comment portion of the agenda item for which you would like to speak. Okay, with that, we'll call the meeting. Roll call, John.
Cindy Johansson.
Here.
Nancy McCarthy.
Present.
Curtis Robinson.
Here.
Lito Pan.
Present.
Patty Garbarino.
Here.
Marilyn Nenzer.
Here.
Jill Sartori.
Here.
Perfect attendance.
Thank you. Okay, approval and adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again? Okay, it is approved. Okay, we are at the public comment section now. And so we'll now take public comment. Each member of the public shall have 2 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, the Brown Act does not permit the board to engage in a discussion or to answer questions about matters not on the agenda. Accordingly, members of the public should not expect the board to respond to concerns and questions raised during public comment. If a comment pertains to a personnel matter, we ask that members of the public please go through the appropriate administrative account. We urge members of the audience to keep in mind that we're an educational agency, and as such, we strive to be an example to our students. We ask members of the audience to express their views with civility and to respect the right of others to express divergent views. In the unlikely event the meeting becomes unruly, the board reserves the right to recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Please observe your time limit of 2 minutes so that as many members of the public who want to speak may be allowed to do so. Thank you. Do we have anyone that would like to make public comment?
Two. The first is Michelle.
Okay, Michelle, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Cernsich Hodge, and I come as a resident and citizen and taxpayer of Marin County. For those of you who don't know, I'm also a school board trustee in Mill Valley. And I did run a campaign with John and Carol. So just to give you context. And the reason I'm here today is I wanted to applaud this board for taking the time on an issue where you had some conversation around superintendent salary, and to just, have that good conversation, have diversity of opinions, because we've learned in Mill Valley that that's really the strength of a school board, is having participation and people coming and voicing various opinions. It helps you make a better decision. And that said, I also wanted to share that I believe as a school board trustee and citizen and taxpayer that it's an unusual superintendent role, but that this board, unlike ours, has some very specific and defined responsibilities. And one, it seems, is to be able to look at a salary on an annual basis, if you wish, or look at it on a 5-year term, if you wish. But I hope that you take into consideration that that is most likely your most effective way to evaluate effectiveness of a superintendent at a county level. And also I wanted to applaud you for your board bylaws. When I came to Mill Valley, we hadn't touched ours for 20 years. And I don't think that's uncommon, but they're so critical. And the other thing I might suggest is, because it gets really difficult in a board setting to be able to share and tease out how you're going to conduct business. And we learned from the TAM Unified School District that a board handbook is vital. And I'd encourage you to contact the California School Board Association. They can bring in, which they did for us, a person that helped us navigate with our superintendent, a really, I think, effective handbook that helps us to navigate the business of the board, because after all, it is a business meeting you're conducting. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts, and have a great meeting.
Thank you. If we can have a timer, I was doing this on my watch, but.
Jesse.
Oh,
I'm
thank
timing
you.
it here. I'm gonna sit a little closer.
Okay, perhaps you could let our speakers know when they have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And our second,
The second speaker is George Idolo.
okay, first.
Good afternoon, distinguished board, and also my friend John Carroll, who is an innovator and one of the most effective superintendents I've ever worked with. And I've worked with superintendents for a very long time. I taught at Stanford University for 25 years in an interdisciplinary program called Social Thought and Institutions, a mixture of political science and the Graduate School of Education. So I've been working in education. Actually, when I was in middle school, I taught astronomy to the adjacent grammar school. So I've been teaching for a long time. I'm here to talk about fair process in the county of Marin in schools. In most cases, my experience is that the clients, known also as students, are not at the table when important decisions are made. Recently, there is an agenda item that will be coming up next week, actually, at the Tamalpais Union High School District, where they plan to merge two alternative schools into one. And there are right now in the district 4,255 students. And I am confident that more than a few of them will have some very creative ideas on how to manage the budget problem that has precipitated this decision to be put on the current agenda of that board. And I urge you to read this fair process, managing in the knowledge economy, a very famous article that appeared in the Harvard Business Review in 2003. It is online, it can be downloaded for free. I am taking this article across the county to all school boards and to students to encourage them to actually participate meaningfully and early in decision making, meaning at the table when the decision is being made with a vote. This is, however, this is right now, hopefully for a little while longer, a democracy where all voices are supposed to be heard, and not just heard, but respected. And if you think that there aren't a number of very intelligent students among the 4,255 students now enrolled in that district, you're less optimistic than I am. So may the force be with us.
Thank you. And that's all for your thank you. Okay, and now the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Okay, do we have public comment first, John?
Yes, I don't know if there's public comment.
Is there any public comment on this? Okay, thank you. Chris?
Move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Marin County Superintendent of Schools report, John Carroll.
Thank you very much, President Nemser. I usually, as you know, try to limit my remarks to things that are brief and that are like developing news or things that happened recently, or maybe predictions about things that might come soon. But as the year winds to an end, I thought this would be a good idea to do sort of an update on programs and just general news that's happened over the course of this year and things that have sort of come to fruition this year or that are close to that, and go back a few years, back to around when I started, and go through a bit of a list. So make yourselves comfortable, have an extra cup of water. It won't go on too long, but grab an extra cookie. They're delicious. They're really nutritious too.
They look nutritious.
Yeah.
They don't look good, but they.
They're really good. And when I was a district superintendent, this is something that I used to do. And I think just because I was new here, I didn't really get in the habit. But every December, as the year came to an end and came up on the holidays, like what's happened and where are we? So I'll try to move fairly quickly. So maybe my presentation won't be as dramatic. I won't have as many pauses as you might be used to, but I'll do the best I can. About 2 years ago, the board approved a new mission statement. We worked together on that, and some of you were on the board at that time, and some of you weren't. And I want to read it to you because it's one that has been useful, I think, that people can look at it every single employee in the organization can look at it and say, oh, I see myself in that mission statement. The work I'm doing today is in service of that mission. So the Marin County Office of Education supports learning and social emotional growth for all students in Marin by expanding educational equity, ensuring fiscal solvency of local school districts, inspiring educators to use evidence-based instructional practices, developing positive relationships with other organizations and individuals, and providing services and programs to supplement and enhance the work of Marin schools. So that comes out, takes a few seconds to say, but it took a few months to put together, and we had some interesting conversations about it. But I think to center that on learning is critical. We're a education agency, and learning is really the heart of what we do. It's provided guidance for all staff. Mostly when I give public speeches, comments, and whatever, I focus on some key areas that I've been talking about for more than the time that I've been here. Things that we think that the research indicates leverage our work around the equity problem that we have in Marin schools, namely that students of color just do not achieve as high as white students in Marin, to put it bluntly. And that's been a persistent problem in Marin. We've been making incremental progress on that for years, but I wanted to start with today, not talk about those three areas up front, which are early childhood education, literacy, and career education. But to start with other things that we do that sometimes don't get as much press, and there's probably a good reason for that. And I want to start out by calling out our health, safety, and support and alternative ed department. If you're a member of that department in any way, shape, or form, if you could just stand up or raise your hand. One, two, good. Okay, we have a few. I look back at all this stuff. I asked people to give me some input on the work that they've done, and I'm familiar with all of it, but it's a lot. Like, so much has happened. We've increased staffing in that department. First of all, we created that department. So there was no HSS department. Early 2023, we opened up that department. Dr. Miller was, I wasn't going to mention any names because I'll leave somebody up, but so Dr. Miller was promoted to assistant superintendent and took over. We increased staffing by 5 people. And if you're in the school finance business, you added 5 FTE to one department, how are you going to pay for that? 100% grant funded. So this is a department that pays for itself and provides, as you will see, phenomenal services to students around Marin and to the whole community. So they can be, in no particular order, this is sort of a salad here. So convene a multi-agency response to immigration enforcement, continues to meet and build the capacity to lead our community and to act quickly on immigration issues. They trained and updated school staff across Marin on how to handle immigration issues, including those frontline people in the front office. Like, if ICE shows up, what do you do? All of our schools, I believe, participate in that. Certainly all of our districts, I think every single school. Those meetings went on for a long time, and we are ready to add more whenever we need to. Direct immigration legal services to schools and families. We were the recipient of a grant from the Marin County Board of Supervisors to hire an immigration attorney to work in our schools. So that's the work of this office, making sure that that's not somebody who's going to be in our office, but pushing into schools. Immigration attorneys are rare these days, and for us to be able to support the employment of one of them for our schools is amazing. We developed a countywide threat determination protocol and evidence-based tool that gives schools guidance on how to respond when there's a threat to student safety. Our ongoing relationship with the school law enforcement partnership was critical in making sure that that got rolled out. We had countywide trainings, and that's all in place. Takes a lot of conversation and a lot of sometimes negotiation to get people to understand why those things are important. We, on behalf of the rest of Marin County, we are staffing the California Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which allows schools to bill Medicaid and private insurance for services provided at school. Revolutionary thing. Our districts in Marin generally are so small that they can't staff up to do that kind of work. So having an agency that can cover everybody, or those for which it's appropriate, it's not every district needs that, to jump in and do that really complicated and interesting and difficult work has been wonderful. We have a crisis response team that we don't talk about very much. Often the work that they do is of a nature that can be, I guess the appropriate word is activating to people when something horrible happens. We don't want to advertise it a lot, but we have a team here at the county office that I think goes unsung much of the time. And it's a deep team, not just HSS department people, who many of whom are clinicians, but also we call on a variety of people across the office. Anyone who has a teaching credential, if we have to drop into a school and provide substitute teachers. I had the honor of getting to teach 2 days of Spanish at our P. Williams High School last year. And that's just, they reach out to us because I think our credibility in that area is so high. We have a brand new building in Rins Community School that probably caused you problems as you were trying to park, but it's almost finished. And if you take a look at it on your way out, you can see it's going to be beautiful. We led the implementation of, we've hired 20 mental health interns for schools in Marin County. And we worked with 5 different universities to do that and had to develop memoranda of understanding with those universities. Developing a memorandum of understanding with the university is hard. 5? I mean, come on. It's awesome. We joined a lawsuit to force social media companies to change their algorithms and to compensate schools for the damage that their platforms have caused. That's still in the courts, but moving forward, and we were very proud to be part of that. And I think we did discuss that to some extent here. It was in the press quite a bit as well. We were one of 23 LEAs that provided data in support of the Attorney General's lawsuit against the current federal Trump administration when they pulled back about $12.5 million worth of mental health funding. That was a little bit controversial. One of the some of the traditional wisdom is keep your head down, maybe they'll leave you alone. We decided not to do that we would get involved. We were not a named party in that suit, but we provided data that helped the Attorney General move forward. Most of you know that there was a court decision, the Ninth Circuit Court ruled in our favor. And last week, surprised if you haven't heard yet, but I think it'll be the IJ tomorrow, the Court of Appeals upheld that decision. So definitely releasing, it looks like we're close to getting that money released back to support mental health for kids in Marin when we could have just sat done nothing. So thank you so much to the team who's working on that. Let's talk about business. So thank you, HSS. Anyone from the business office? Business or IT? Stand up. When I arrived, there was Marin County Office of Education was sort of legendary for fiscal oversight. They were like, you know, they got the money right. So that's sometimes that's a good thing. Usually it's always a good thing. Sometimes it means that people throw extra work at us because we're a reliable institution. But some things came up, and I wanted to have a clearer understanding of how our business processes work. And some of the people in that office said, you know, we could probably look under the hood and see if we're doing things in the most efficient and modern way. So I suggest that we contact FICMAT, the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. And when you say the word FICMAT, you can see business people kind of they get a little nervous. I can see Bree's kind of tightening up a little bit there. But I was going to mention some people said, no, don't have FICMAT come in. It'll expose things that you might not want to expose, blah, 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 which made me want to do it more. So we did hire FICMAT. We paid for it. Often FICMAT comes in when you don't want them to come in. I mean, if you get to a point, we had to really warn people that this wasn't a crisis. This was us wanting to find out how our finances were working, whether we were doing things as well as we could be. So we did the FICMAT study. At the same time, we were fortunate because the deputy director of FICMAT, Michelle Giacomini, was a year away from retirement. She lives in this area. And she said, hey, what if you hire me for a year to help oversee the transition as Kate Lane's retiring and you're redoing your business services? So we got the deputy director of FICMAT to sit with us for a year and to help oversee the changes that were happening in business. The FICMAT report was, it gave us a lot to do. And one of the beautiful things about it is by the time we were maybe 4 or 5 months into it, many of the recommendations that ended up being officially added to their report, we had already taken care of. So that included things like staffing changes and a bunch of business stuff that I can't possibly get into details about today, but it really improved and really modernized our practices from a system that was very effective and one that I think is approaching like state of the art and a really good example for the districts around us. Enormously helpful. Another huge project in business, and this is something that I lived with when I was a district superintendent and even an assistant superintendent 10 years earlier than that, and that was an aging financial system for Marin County schools. It is very difficult to get 17 school districts to agree on anything, and that means not just superintendents or boards, but CBOs who tend to be, I don't want to pick on them too much, but they tend to be very critical and sometimes a little on the pessimistic side. And getting them to agree that it was time to do a change in the fiscal management system and to pick one and to move forward with it we've been working on that for, I think, probably close to 20 years. I remember talking to Kate Lane about it. She was like, I'm not sure we'll ever get that done. Our business team, I think, largely through just rational conversations, but also through personal diplomacy, got all of our districts to agree to it. And at the same time, our biggest district, Novato, decided, I think, somewhat because of that, to join us and to move away from their own fiscal independence. They ran their own system for years. They decided they were going to come on board and say all 17 school districts are going to be under the same financial system. It goes live, goes live this July. And if all our business people look a little stressed, you know what, it's a huge lift. Our business office also has offered what they're calling a Masters of Business Processes and Procedures, a series of classes. So not just people in the business office, but people throughout the organization who use any of our systems related to finance and to other things get training, so they're all trained and calibrated in the same way. And it also gives them a point person or point people to go back to if they have questions about any of the new systems as they're being updated and ones that we've been using for a long time. One thing I wanted to mention, sometimes we talk about deficit spending, and when we get our budget, there's deficit spending. Usually, in fact, for 3 years, we've had deficit budgeting, meaning that we're predicting a deficit at some point in 3 years. But always when we've done the final audit, we never overspent. So we stayed in the black. I would call it not deficit spending, but deficit budgeting. So we've been in the black, really financially stable this whole time. I think thanks to some of the thoughtful work that was done by the previous administration in the business office and the new folks who were in there. And then again, lastly, for the business office, the ongoing relationships with our school districts, monthly meetings with DBO. They're not just colleagues, but they're friends. They work together. They know each other to make sure that when we're working on anything related to finance, so much shared work goes on in that they all know each other and can work together and be on the same page. Business also oversees our information technology, or we call it IS. Information services. The work they're doing on the adoption of the new business system is huge too. And these are guys who, not all guys, are they guys? Mostly. They tend to be in the background when I'm talking back there. So they've been doing amazing work at getting that all up and running, as well as building us a new website and doing ongoing staff training on all things technology. So very supportive. One thing you'll see a difference in the next year or less than a year is all these wires and things in this room that you trip over when you're coming in. That's all going to be updated too. All right. On to, I know we're about halfway there. That's okay. Everyone doing well? You take a break? After break? Okay, good. Let's talk about human resources. Along with our FICMAT report, our personnel department went through a comprehensive classification study using a company called Education Management Solutions. It took over a year to complete, and it included a complete overhaul of 80 job descriptions, 80. We only have 320 employees. There were 80 job descriptions that we had, and all employees had the opportunity to participate in discussions. I see a lot of nodding heads like, yeah, I was in on that conversation. No matter what your position was, we talked to everybody. What is the work you're really doing? With the cooperation and support of our labor unions, we retitled, added, removed, and otherwise tweaked lists of jobs and job descriptions, some of which had been on the books since the 1980s. And we're on that like onion skin paper done with a typewriter. We worked together with our unions also to provide the largest increase in compensation in nearly 30 years and the biggest increase in healthcare in recent memory, which was affordable. It's an affordable and a 3-year contract, which if you've ever done union negotiations, morale is much more improved by a 3-year deal than it is by any raise. Like the fact that you're not talking for a while is great. And that's been very well received. Our relationship with our labor partners has been strong ever since. I think I can say that none of them are glaring at me. So, okay, good. All right. Because of that increase, we saw an immediate positive effect. We began to hire and retain more teachers and support staff, including filling vacancies in very hard to fill positions like speech pathologist and special ed paraeducators. All positions are staffed now because of our study that we did at or slightly above what the market bears. We did a bunch of research on what people are getting paid in those positions and then aligning them so they're about right. Very difficult work, and having a fresh start on that's been great. Sometimes you can wave a magic wand and solve a problem. we had a big substitute teacher issue, if you remember back about 4 years ago, where we were just running out of subs. One of the clogs in the system that we found is people would show up at the Marin County Office of Education. We maintain a list of people who are eligible to substitute teach. And they would come in and they want to sign up, try to be a substitute teacher, often a great route into education. A lot of us, first job in education was a sub. You go in there and the first thing they find out is it costs $100 to get their fingerprints done. And we were hearing from them, like, people coming in going, no, I'm not going to do it. So for a relatively small amount of money, we decided to budget enough to do a pilot year of just paying that fee for everybody. That created an extremely optimistic bump in our number of substitute teachers. Basically, and I call it an explosion. A lot of people, I think we made a lot of work for our credential department, but a lot of subs showed up. And then we found in year 2, when we decided we want to keep this going, yeah, we do, because so many people signed up in year 1 that year 2, it was a lot cheaper. And this is something that was in really essential service to our local school districts. I remember when I was working in those districts, finding subs was very difficult. It's still not super easy, but I think this is something just by a little bit of thoughtfulness on the part of our HR department to make sure that road got smooth for our new substitute teachers. Another thing that happened in that regard is a new law went into effect saying that all teachers, every district, when they hire anyone, including substitute teachers, has to do a background check. And that made it really difficult. If you're calling a substitute at 6 o'clock in the morning, you can't say, hey, can you get a background check done on your way here and like talk to the FBI? It doesn't work that way. So what we did is, after conversations with all our school districts, we took the lead, and now we have a system in place where we do that checking for the school districts. Our HR department is now fully staffed. And to those of you who might not be aware of our staffing issues have been, that's huge news. Fully staffed, all the seats are filled, so that's great. One of the moments that I'm proudest of is Dr. Lori Watson, who's been our professional development expert, who's been working with us for since the beginning of the school year, and before that too, but she's been doing a lot of work lately, gave a presentation to our entire staff. We had everybody go out to the Indian Valley campus at College Marin in Nevada, the whole room full, every single staff member, unless somebody was sick or something. And her first comment was, this place looks a lot more diverse than it did the last time I was here. That our numbers of employees of color has gone up noticeably, to the point where somebody who pays attention to that stuff noticed it right away. When I check with our HR department, we're getting some actual data on that. I'll get the numbers for you at some point. These are always moving, but that has been, that's verified by the data as well, that this was a much less diverse organization. And we're really seeing some changes in that. And even more than that, as a percentage, internal promotions have gone up for people of color. So that is very exciting news as well. And lastly, I will finish the HR section on Walker Creek Ranch. During the pandemic, most of you know, just closed, and we had a tiny crew with 2 people out there. We had to lay off the whole food service staff, which was difficult. So gratitude to CSCA, the union that represents those staff members, for being patient with us. And this year, we were actually starting last year, we were able to bring back the food service staff. So with some patience, all those bargaining unit positions have come back, and Walker Creek is up to, it's at capacity this year. And we're continuing to grow our conference, the conference end of the business there actually helps fund the rest of it. So we have a new conference manager in place, and it's back to its vibrant self. In the superintendent's office, we have
John, we have some HR and personnel team members in the office.
Thank you. Direct things out of the superintendent's office. People from the superintendent's office. All right. We've had the first comprehensive update of board and superintendent policies since 1989. So our speaker earlier mentioned how important it is to update policies. 1989 is a long time away to get down to. So longer than we continue to host robust Superintendent's Day meetings once a month. So all the superintendents are invited. Attendance is higher. And I've been going to those since I was a superintendent previously this is like my 13th year going. I checked with a couple other superintendents and they say the group is more functional than it's ever been. And it's hard for me a little bit to step back and be on sort of a different seat at that table, but it sure feels that way to me. And that's definitely the feedback we're getting. We supported the birth of a middle school sports league. I don't know where that would fall in any department, but middle school sports is really important. In Marin, and it's an equity issue. In Marin County, if your child plays sports, it's a strong likelihood that they're going to be in a pay-to-play program. And I feel that because both of my kids were in club sports, and it's very expensive, and it makes things really hard. When you get to high school, a lot of the sports have cuts, and so kids who might really enjoy trying out a sport don't get to because they didn't play in the club sport and can't get drafted by the coach sometimes who's the one who's coaching their club sport too. Middle school sports gives a great opportunity, usually cut-free, where kids all get to participate, and that kicks off this year. We're hiring in the Selva district supporting it, hiring an athletic director who's going to do all the organization around that to offer sports we've been doing for a while, but in a more organized way. And this has been extremely popular with our local school districts as well. We've coached and advised districts on interdistrict transfers and expulsions. We've staffed the committee on redistricting, and normally I would say that's business as usual. The committee on redistricting comes and goes. This is a very busy time for that. For years, it can go on and nothing happens, and then suddenly there are a bunch of cases. So superintendent's office is taking care of that. I just came from the county supervisors meeting where they're discussing Oak Hill. I won't go on about that, but I think all of you are aware of the Oak Hill Housing Initiative. That's something that is ongoing. That we inherited that work from the previous administration, but we're moving it forward, and it looks like we're going to get there. The superintendent, that would be me, was added to the California County Superintendent's Governing Board this year, representing Marin, Solano, Napa, Contra Costa, and Alameda counties, which is an opportunity to have our voice at a higher level at the legislative, at the county, at the statewide level with other county soups, and to have more of an influence on policies statewide. 2025 was a special year. A variety of actions at the federal level have made our normal work harder. And maybe this is an oversimplification, but there are sort of two schools of thought, and this came up at the county superintendent's organization as well. As attacks come against public schools, and that's what I call them. Not everyone would agree with that way of characterizing it, but when people try to take money or shut you down or do whatever they're trying to do, you can either say, okay, keep your head down and hope for the best, or you can say, all right, we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we keep doing the work that we want to on behalf of kids. So those two grants that I talked about earlier, that was critical in this area, and the superintendent's office also had a lot to do with that. Okay, now, you still seem interested, or either that or you're being really polite, which I appreciate. Let's talk about the departments that handle the three areas that I keep repeating myself, broken record style, that provide leverage that the research tells us are likely to have the most profound effect on equity. So let's talk about reading. So we've trained 631 teachers in the science of reading. So we had a county that was mostly not adopting science of reading. We have a state that wouldn't pass legislation to require it. The research is really clear. Well, research-based reading practices are going to work better than non-research-based reading practices. But it was hard to get that to be a statewide adoption. There's still work to be done, but 631 teachers in a county this size, that includes every single one of our school districts. And even private schools reached out to us, 27 teachers from private schools. We didn't pay for their costs, but they showed up for our trainings as well. Those numbers keep on growing, and we've had representation, as I mentioned, I think, from all 17 school districts. So the demand for literacy training continues to grow, and that's just amazing news that we're going to see results. This really has a major effect, especially on kids whose families can't afford tutors. So. All right, we've had the AI series, artificial intelligence, which we were just talking about that before this meeting started. All the anxiety, nervousness, and excitement around AI, we were able to bring in trainers and to have ongoing conversations through our Ed Services office. Oh, can Ed Services? Raise your hand. Ed Services. So the AI series has been very popular, really successful. We've also been instrumental in adopting the early reader tool, early reader assessment. Basically, new state law says we need to assess all kindergartners and first graders and second graders for reading. This also can reveal dyslexia. So at an early age, finding out who's going to struggle with reading before they start struggling can be really, really helpful. And so that's great. And we were instrumental. We worked with UCSF to help them develop their tool, and we've helped implement this across the county. Our ILT program, that's the Innovative Learning Team, a countywide program where instructional leaders in mostly the curriculum and instruction area get together. The feedback we've gotten is that that committee's been around for a while. It kind of ebbs and flows. Right now, it's on fire. Like they love coming, collaborating together to make sure we're doing what's best for kids. So we know that if kids do better in reading, they're going to do better in everything. Let's go on quickly to schools and career, and we're going to be done soon. We know that also when students at an early age know where they're going in life and that they can tie their experience in school to a career path, school is more relevant. They're going to stay in. And even if that path changes, it's going to keep them engaged in school. Our CTE team has just been amazing. Can I see a show of hands or a quick stand up from anyone working at our school? A reminder, also those of you who aren't in the industry, when we talk about like school to career, people think, oh, shop class, like the kids who can't go to college, they just take that class. That's not how it is in California anymore. Every kid is in school to career. So what does that look like? That includes keeping options open, including college for any kid. And it also includes trade, anything we can do to start building that path early. So pathways to higher paying careers keep schools relevant. At the Marin County office, we've been partners with Kaiser and the ROP Medical Assisting Training. I got to go to their graduation last year and seeing those kids, like what, juniors in high school, in their scrubs, like teaching each other and the public about what they got to, and having had real experiences in hospitals. Some of whom are like, oh, this is for me. This is the thing I want to do. Others are like, I never want to do that again. I got to go find another career, which is great. Like get over with that pretty quick. We also had a wonderful partnership that's beginning with By the Bay Health. Outstanding. They helped us offer a class at San Marin High School Medical Careers Introduction class. It was so popular that they've added a second section of it. There's a waiting list, and that's going to continue to grow. And so is our partnership with By the Bay Health. We've received grants through the School to Career department between $2 and $2.5 million brought into Marin every year for the last several years. And that just keeps on going. It's one of those confidence things where once you become like, oh, those people know what they're doing, I think that there's a certain amount of traction that happens, and we can keep going with that. So that's great. We are recognized as a leader in the state and chosen to host the state plan for CTE regional meeting. So that was a real honor up at the hotel, whatever that's called, up on the hill. All people from all over California who came here to discuss and to get trained on CTE. We have a paid summer internship program in Career Explorers, partnering with juvenile probation to offer that. It's great to see those kids on campus. I got to have 2 interns in my office for a while, paid interns who were, that was great to have like teenagers walking around and, helping out on things and like giving them real tasks is great. See, kids like, who otherwise, the 2 kids I had, I'll just a little brief aside. Both of them said that they weren't the best behaved kids in school, but when they were here, they were like professional. They really they stepped up just because of the environment that we offer. Summer Career Academy, we partnered with College of Marin to provide expansion into middle school for our career readiness. So we have, we're trying to, if we can get kids down as low as 5th, 6th grade, thinking about what their careers are, by the time they go to high school, they're going to have a different, more productive experience that they find more relevant. And that includes the Empower Tomorrow program at Nevada Unified School District, where one of our employees is overseeing that work. Okay, so almost on ECE, early childhood education. That's another one of the leverage areas. We collaborated with other agencies to expand the California State preschool program. And I want to do a personal brag. Well, it's not even a personal brag. It's in my community where I live. The San Geronimo Valley Community Child Care Center was on the verge of collapse because of collaboration around the county and the ECE community. Some of the people at Marin Promise Partnership person down the street, me, and a few people in this office, they applied for and got the state preschool grant, and they are now thriving. Their population they have more kids than they knew what to do with. This saved them. It saved in a lot of ways. Certainly, it's free, free childcare and early education for those kids out in that community, and that's similar to what we're doing everywhere else. We provided $1,024,000 to early care educators for college tuition reimbursement, block grants, and ECE sites and other forms of assistance, all grant funded. We made statewide news by getting the California State Superintendent to define the requirement for transitional kindergarten in all of our districts, including basic aid districts, and to say that it is a requirement. We partnered with the Fairfax San Anselmo Child Care Center as an important partner when that program was on the verge of losing its site. And I mean, it's nuts. It's like its location in Deer Park, really politically dicey, but we jumped in, put a fair amount of dollars behind getting an inspection on that site done, and I think set the stage largely for a nonprofit to take over, which meant like 250 early childhood education slots still being offered in Fairfax for kids who are least able to pay for that sort of stuff. We have 94 early childhood education sites in elementary schools that have had access to our professional development here. And I don't know how many teachers. So 94 sites around Marin County. That's all kinds of early childhood. Can I see anyone from early childhood here? And we're almost done. Walker Creek Ranch, back to pre-pandemic levels. Oh, I covered a lot of that earlier, so that's great. Walker Creek people here? Anyone? Kind of. If you haven't been to Walker Creek while the sun is out, get out there when the sun is out, and you can see that we've invested a lot of money in. I think it's deferred maintenance that was deferred for way too long. So when you drive in now, the showplace dining hall that's been there for a long time really needed a paint job, and now it has it. It has a new roof, and as you drive in, you'll notice you're not hitting any potholes because the road is beautifully paved. And I'm not exaggerating. That was like, when I would go to Walker Creek Ranch, I have a 4-wheel drive car, and I'm like, I would take the 4-wheeler when you're driving in. Not anymore. So that's great. Ongoing work there, including re-roofing all of the buildings and addressing some other environmental issues. We're going to continue to make sure that Walker Creek comes up to a level that is really popular for conferences that help fuel the 4,000 or so kids that come through there every year for outdoor ed. We did bring back the conference manager position, which is awesome. She's super, I won't say her name, doing great work to bring more conferences back. And then lastly, for maintenance and for our maintenance department, a lot of that happens at Walker Creek, but also a big shout out to the work that's happened here. And I know, as I say this, there must be people going, yeah, what about our HVAC in that hall, which is suffering, but we're getting there. And I promise we are taking it seriously and we're fixing it. But besides that, let's forget about our malfunctioning HVAC system, which is going to be replaced. Incrementally, we're improving flooring. We've done all the windows, big project, energy efficient windows. Remember what was like into those like thin old 1950s windows and wind blowing in? So been taken care of. You're seeing new carpeting coming along, and there's going to be some restructuring of this building because we really want our employees to feel like when they get here, this is a place that welcomes them. And I think that the furnishing and the architecture and just the layout of the building gives people a certain feeling of respect and comfort. And I think we're definitely going to see that going forward. Now, I'm sure I missed something, but I've gone on a really long time.
I think you should touch on special education, specifically related to inclusion.
Oh, of course. I think I had a page that didn't print. So our special ed, and I'm going to include SELPA in that. There are two different departments. We have our special education local plan area, SELPA, which is largely independent. Then we have our special ed team, which is maybe our biggest team. Those are our teachers, 36 classrooms out in the field. And one of the issues that we've bumped up against for a very long time is called inclusion. And inclusion means different things to different people. But when we have programs that are where we're taking kids out of their home school, the schools in their communities, and busing them to other places because they have extraordinary needs, that creates a problem with inclusion. Like just by its very nature, like if you don't live there, that alone makes things challenging. So we've been working with a lot of partners, and we're working on a plan to work with our districts to make sure that we're being more inclusive and that we're continuing to do a lot of training around inclusion for all staff throughout Marin County to get everybody on board with being with more inclusive practices. And also a shout out to our there's a sub-organization, dedication to special education, that raises funds and awareness around that topic, and they've been really instrumental in helping us get that work done as well. So,
And I think we should clap for our special education.
Someone gave me the idea earlier that I should recognize, don't mention any names because someone will feel left out, but recognize the departments as we go through. So I didn't quite have the choreography down, but for everybody who's been here along this whole time, and for the new employees who've come in and done doing this work, thank you so much. We had a wonderful meeting, like a staff-wide meeting several days ago, right before Thanksgiving. And we had a really good conversation about gratitude. And when I look at this and when I look around the building, and it was really an eye-opener to me to look back and say, well, what have we done? To see that and just to know of all the hard work that everybody here has been up to, it's been really, really inspiring. It inspires gratitude in me. And for the board, your support of this is really important. And my gratitude goes out to you as well. And I know we've had a board with, people come in and go, yeah, it wasn't that, a lot of new faces on it as well. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Can we clap for John? Board comments.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you too personally, John, as someone who started at MCO in 1976. That's me, the oldest person in the room. I was running whatever. That was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure it's my every consultant seems to celebrate all of that.
So
The other thing you didn't mention is the Boy Scout Award.
Oh,
Just saying. Yeah. You got an award from the Boy Scout.
yeah. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be there. I was raised by people that like teach humility. There's my mom.
And your mom, I know, is here. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm getting a big award from Scouting USA. They call it. I used to be called Boy Scouts, but Marine Distinguished Citizen. So there's
Right on.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, John.
Thanks so much.
Any other comments from the board? Nancy?
Yes. First, I'd like to thank all of you people here for doing the work that John described. I was unaware of it. I've never been aware of it as a board member. And I'm sad that I wasn't made aware of it. And any comments I make are not intended to reflect upon you. But one of my issues as a board member has been the complete lack of information about what's going on at MC. And I am frankly flabbergasted by this report tonight. It seems like, I don't even know what it is, but usually the superintendent's report is about 3 minutes. And I have been prohibited, and I'm prohibited now, from even asking about some of the details that he has listed. I have requested, as one of the board members, the ability to get him to put this information together, put it on the agenda, so that I'm not stopped by his employee, the attorney for the board, from asking questions about it, about what you're doing, about any details about it, because I'm told that's a violation of the president. Even though it's not a matter to be voted on, I'm told I can't ask questions. I don't like that. I don't like not being able to get a report from the superintendent and know what's happening. But I would never, and I'm sure that there are people sitting on this board that have no idea about any of the details you just put. So it's really a matter of process. And the fact that he has come in and told us all this now is surprising. It's almost shocking. I also know that there are some issues that there's another side of, and that he hasn't talked about, that don't make some of the things that he did, not your work, look different than the way he's described it. But I know that if I raise questions about it, I'm going to be stopped by the attorney that's sitting over here, because I will be raising issues and starting discussion about something that he had it written down, so he could have provided it 3 days in advance. And then I would have been able to ask questions about it, because according to her, it would have been on the agenda. Still, it's not a voting item. So I want to applaud you for all the work that you've done and say that it's truly unfortunate that the board has had no control over, has had no involvement on, and really knew nothing about it. Because as a board member, I was never provided these reports, never provided the information. And I also know that there are issues that are arising that are going to greatly impact MCOE in terms of finances. And that's not on the agenda, so there won't be any discussion about that. And I'm concerned that these are all things that this board has no control over. And this board really has no involvement in. But as a citizen, not as a board member, I just want to thank you for all the work that you're obviously doing to help to improve the community.
Thank you for your comment. I don't know if all the board members would agree with that, but I appreciate your comment.
Sure.
Any other board comments, Lee?
I really appreciated learning from John today, all the things that were done and are being done. And to Nancy's point, some of this I don't know, but I truly appreciate it. And I was wondering, John, because it was such a good presentation, whether it's something that you could provide to us in writing. I think it would help each of us to have a more depth understanding of that.
Sure. I would have to. I have it really as talking notes, not as a document, but I can definitely do that. And also with a lot of these things, I think almost all of them, if not all of them, have come up in bits and pieces to the board over time. And so to hear them all at once, in fact, I can comment myself that when I saw it, I'm like, wow, look at all that. And so that it feels really different to see it all at once.
Thank you.
Everybody else is commenting. Comment. Because for me, none of this was news. And none of it was unexpected. I mean, this is one of the hardest working organizations that I've been a part of since I've been on here over 20 years. I mean, the quality of the work, the level of the work, the professionalism of the work of this organization has always been top tier. So I haven't missed any of it over the years. And again, I appreciate all the work and know how hard all the work is, but I'm surely not surprised by John's report. This is standard business work here, guys. So and I expect and I know that this level of work has been going on every year. When Mary Jane was here and John just took over the realms. So, and I might even say that the quality, and no disrespect to anybody here, the quality has been higher in the past. Yes. By some of the leaders of this organization. And we are all trying to aspire to that level, which is A++ work. So this is not a surprise to me. So thank you, John.
I have an additional comment. A lot of people would ask me, how are you doing with your second job? Because my first job is really quite time consuming, lots of numbers and stuff like that. And my normal response is, I thought that being elected at the board would mean a lot of work for me, but the people at MCOE are so professional. They know their stuff. I rely on what they say. It's like anytime that they come up with reports, it's really solid. So for me, it's not really a lot of work. It's more understanding what they do and appreciating what they do for the children of Marin County. So I just wanted to applaud you on that. I think you guys are really good. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments? I just want to say that, isn't that how you do it? When you want to just say what that person said and that person said, you just say that, right? So that. Anyway, thank you.
I'd like to just add,
It was.
I'm a new board member. I can't say that I think next month, but this is the last month of the year and I joined in February and I have so much respect for all of you. I have been well aware of everything that John described in his report. It's great to hear it as a summary. I was aware of it as a community member who's involved in education. The last 10 months have been incredibly inspiring to me. And it really is true, Curtis, what you said about the level, the skill, the expertise, the professionalism, amazing. And you know, even Bree, we sit and we talk about budget, it's so complicated, but you're able to translate it in a way that makes me feel more effective. It's been a huge learning curve, and I really, really appreciate so many of you who have helped me get up to speed. So thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And is there any, I think now, did we take public comment? Is there any public comment on the superintendent's report?
There's one,
Okay.
That me.
Let's hear it.
First of all, let me say, as an educator myself, that John Carroll inspires, and therefore MCBE rocks. I've worked with John quite a bit over the last year and a half, and I just want to reveal that he is an Eagle Scout, but also a black belt in the same martial arts style I am. He's the first to be black on third degree, so he bows to me, which is appropriate. The work that has been done by this department, I'm going to work with MCBE for 3-4 decades. Mary Jane Berg and I would meet regularly, and I meet regularly now with John and his staff. And I've been invited to participate in the middle school sports program. I taught optimal human performance to athletes at Stanford University and know a great deal about what works and what doesn't work for high-level athletes. And I'm thinking middle school kids probably will be interested in learning how to perform the same way gold medal winners do for the Olympics. And I have stories from gold medal winners that were in my classes. And to say I taught them would be a lie. We taught each other. And my phone is obviously signaling the fact that that is impressive. That we have to teach each other, which kind of makes me think that now what we're doing with this MCBE operation is encouraging more students to get involved in a meaningful way with their schools. And I'm leading a charge in all the districts to make student voice real. And using the paper that I mentioned before, fair process, where the clients and the workers, I call them students, must be at the table. They have ideas because they're immersed in this very challenging world right now. And we need to hear their voices routinely, or we will not do well to serve them. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Okay, thank you. And we will move on to number 5 action items now. 5.01 first interim financial report.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon, evening. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. Yep. Okay. Sorry. We're still trying to decide who's going first, but Pam and I, this is my director, Pam Smith. She is our internal senior business director who oversees MCBE and various internal programs, and she will be going over first half of our presentation for first interim.
Good evening, everyone. This slide here is just a snapshot and a reminder of the budget cycle that we go through in creating the budget for MCBE and where we are at this moment in time. We are at the end of the slide here, where December 15th, we are reporting on our first interim. You notice here, we start the calendar year off in January, where we start creating a budget with the governor's his
Proposed
budget. And then moving on to the second interim that will happen in March 15th. And then the governor will have another update to the January budget cycle. And then we have closing. So what is included in our first interim budget? We start off with the revenues. As you see here, we have 4 major revenue sources here. We have the LCFF sources, the federal, state, and other local. And The pie chart here shows that for LCFF sources, you see that there's 33%. And our highest income comes from other local revenues. And then 5% is federal, and then we have state at 25%.
So county offices and school districts are very different. School districts funding sources come from largely from what we call the LCFF calculator, and that determines the district's entitlement. And then in this county, we have a lot of districts that are what's called basic aid because their property taxes exceed their entitlement. But there's a lot of questions because county offices are different than districts. So where districts are, and I'm making this up, about 80% LCFF and then 20% grants. County offices are kind of, they're inverse. So county offices are going to be significantly less. We have about 33% LCFF funding, and then the rest of ours, so about 70% of our funding comes from various grants and other sources. And so, but there's a question about what does that entitlement look like? County offices do have a calculator just like districts do. We went over it a couple months ago at one of our budget briefings. But it's also, just questions that arise. How do we get to that? And so what I provided for you here is just kind of a combination of what's per ADA. And so, what do we get? How are county office funded? And all county offices receive two main funding sources in what we call the base grant. And one is based on the total county ADA. And then the second thing is based on the total number of districts. So whether or not a county office operates a program or not, they're going to receive that base funding line. And then different funding sources come in as different programs are added and other things are included. So this is just a slide and it'll be available after the presentation online. So you can just see the various funding rates if that's a question you have. The main reason for first interim is to just update us from budget. So we actually did have a 45-day revision update this year. We don't always do that unless there's a material change from adopted budget from our adopted budget to the state's adopted budget, which is a 45-day revision. And then the first interim is the first major update. So all of those things I talked about at the 45-day revision are now incorporated into our budget at the first interim. And the main differences for us include the $5 million ultra processed foods grant that we are administering for the CBE. And then the big changes are really unspent carryover. So that's the biggest thing is as we close the books in October, we realized we didn't hire that person or we didn't end up fully expending that grant. And so the big swing and shift is from what we thought we were going to spend last year and what we didn't and adding that to this year's budget. So one of the things you'll see if you go down into the fund forms is that it does look like we're deficit spending this year, but really we're not necessarily deficit spending. What that is the expenses. So the revenue was recognized in a prior year and now we're just spending that money this year. So it's really coming out of our ending fund balance, which was the carryover prior year. So we're not actually deficit spending in here because that's really carryover this year. And then the last thing I mentioned was transfers to deferred maintenance. You're going to hear me talk a lot about facilities and deferred maintenance over the next couple of years here because it was something that we didn't have solid plans on, and we're working on making solid plans. I'm a long-term planner, and so it's something we're going to be working on over and creating a 5-year plan. And my grant started that, and Adams picked that up very nicely. And so we're working on how to keep that on a steady rate so that we can also set aside a steady amount of money for that to make sure that our facilities are maintained and our assets don't. And then this one, you might recognize this. I've been trying to bring this with every interim report is just how to read those SACS forms. So SACS is the school, the state accounting software, and it's not easy to read all the time, but there are some absolutely fabulous reports in there. I would recommend my favorite, which is called the Criterion Standards. It's included in the packet if you'd like to read through it. I think it's a great read. I don't know if everybody would agree, but the most common forms are what we call the fund forms. And this is a sample of Fund 01 and just kind of simple how to read it. There's always going to be the original budget, the board approved budget at first interim. Those two are the same thing. But then what you're really looking at is the projected year totals. So I know that's a weird term, but that's really what our budget is now. So our budget now is what's called the projected year totals when you're looking through those forms. And anyone is always welcome to call our office if they feel like they need more information on this. And then as promised, I'm gonna always include this glossary of terms, and that's it for me today, unless we have questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Jill?
Hi, Bree, thank you so much. As one of the newer board members, it is a big learning curve to go from understanding district budgeting to county level budgeting, and you've done a really good job helping us in that process. And thank you also for having office hours for us. I do have a few questions though. Why did 3 criteria and standards not meet requirements?
I don't know which ones those are off the top of my head, but.
One was salary benefits, the other was revenues, and then other expenses.
So we've had some different, there's a lot of reasons why, those different things can be out. So what the criterion standards does, and why I think it's a great thing to read through, is it takes your last 3 years and kind of creates what they consider to be an average standard of growth or decline for your district, and it creates a percentage. And then it looks at this year and it says, are you within that percentage of growth for this year? And so if you don't meet that, then it's gonna say, okay, you're outside that range. Well, this year, we've always given about a 3% raise in the past, so our history of raises is 3%, so we gave a 5% in this last 2 years. And so that's gonna make us be outside the range because that's different than what the past practice has been. It's not that it's necessarily wrong, it's just, it's giving you a warning on why the criterion standards is. I like it because it's more of a narrative. So if you're not a true budget person and you don't love reading the fun forms, which is sad, but if you're not enjoying that, you're gonna go to the criterion standards and it's gonna kind of give you that narrative and that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to say, okay, this was kind of our standard in the past and you're not within that same target. So it's not, again, it's not that it's bad or wrong, it's just kind of bringing that to your attention. Hey, this is different.
Bree, did healthcare play into that as well?
Yeah, that can be part of that salary and benefits, because we also did increase the health caps as well, so.
So
all of those things.
over a 3-year contract, it should be closer to that.
Yeah, because it's looking at the past, right? So as the past becomes our present, those percentages will change, but then it could change based on future negotiations. And that's why it's important to look at those and look at those met, not mets, because that's gonna just kind of highlight, hey, what's going on here? Is this within our normal range? What normal is change.
Thank you. And can you talk a little bit about budget planning? The state is facing a budget deficit in the tens of billions of dollars, and federal funding is uncertain. And given that we have 5% of the budget is based on federal revenue, and then a significant portion from the state, how are you looking into that process going forward?
So every year in November, the LAO offers a fairly comprehensive report of what they think the coming year is going to give us for an outlook. And that LAO outlook that came out in November, not gonna lie, it was pretty bleak. It was very warning and telling districts to not necessarily be conservative, but to be well thought out, because they are definitely predicting and other state leaders have been to a couple of conferences lately. My client Tom Fickman is definitely, and he goes to many conferences. I think he was at CSBA a couple of weeks ago. Are just warning that the economic, we were starting to move up a little bit and they're starting to see a shift down. We're at this moment in time, the COLA that we've projected out for next year is at 3.02. In the last few weeks, it's been downgraded, and while they haven't given us a projection, they're saying it's definitely going to be under 3%. And so that's incredibly impactful, maybe not to us as a county office because we are a basic aid county office, and to the districts that are basic aid funded, but that's going to be really impactful to districts that are LCFF funded. I mean, any amount of change to that percentage is going to reduce what their potential growth was. It's not the full percentage change, but if they expected a little bit of growth and now they're only going to get a teeny bit of growth, and that can be really impactful, especially considering our 2 biggest districts in the county are LCFF funded or entitlement. So.
That segues into my last question. In terms of reviewing local district budgets, are you seeing any concerning trends with respect to our local school districts in Marin?
You know what, the first thing I'm gonna say is I'm gonna commend all of our school districts because we've worked really hard to build relationships with them and they're really communicative with us. So if they think that something's gonna, you know, if a district has a concern that they're going to be qualified or worse, you know, they call us and say, hey, here's we're worried, like, can you look over this for us? Can you be a second set of eyes? Can you help us? Where are we at? What are we doing? And so I think the number one thing, even though it's not really an answer to your question, but I think that the relationships that we have with those districts are critical because then we can lean in and support them in the way that they need, give them advice, give them whatever it is that they're looking at. But you're not wrong. We have a couple of districts in the county. I don't know when their board meetings are, so I'm not gonna say it out loud. But we have a couple of districts that have some budgets that may be qualified at this interim. And so that's never something positive, you know, I would love for all districts in this county to always be positive. But it's not always something they can avoid, especially for districts that are LCFF are funded through entitlement and with the uncertainty of federal funding. While that uncertainty is significantly less for districts because their total budgets are less reliant on grants than a county office is, it's still impactful. That's still people to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Nancy?
Thank you again, Bree. In fact, Jill asked a number of the questions that you discussed with me when I spoke to you on the phone. I guess it was yesterday. And I appreciate you taking that time because it was extremely informative. And what I am interested to know is what other, and going back to this COLA issue and how it's going to affect the LCFF funded schools, you indicated that Marin County was tipping into an LCFF funding versus a basic aid funded county. Was I incorrect in understanding that to be what you had to say, or was it?
Yeah, if that was the impression, that's definitely not. Marin is still a fairly, what I would call solid basic aid county. We really only have 2 districts that are just solid LCFF. Unfortunately, they're our largest district that serve our largest population of students, and so they are the most impacted by those. But property taxes in Marin are fairly steady, even though there's certain things in the LAO report that indicate that there might be housing downtrends. Marin County isn't really. They might not be seeing the exponential growth that we've seen in the past, but our growth is still pretty steady when it comes to property taxes. And so those basic aid districts are fairly solid basic aid. And as the COLA actually reduces, that actually makes the gap between basic aid and LCFF bigger. So if they're getting less from the state, that actually means the difference between what their state entitlement is and what their potential for property taxes actually grows. So there's actually the potential that we have districts that were cusping or going back and forth to become solid basic aid when the state is providing less money.
Right, it was my understanding from comments by the Marinwood schools that they were going back and forth as to whether or not they were going to be at LCFF versus basic aid.
We have a couple of districts in the county that definitely flip-flop back and forth. And there's a multitude of features for that because if they're really close and they're LCFF funded one year, then they are also entitled to this extra pot of taxes called supplemental. And then because they get those taxes, it actually pushes them above. And so when they're close to the edge, it is very common for what I call a cusping district that's on the cusp to actually go back and forth every single year, which is a nightmare for the district. But that is the reality, and because of the way the LCFF calculator works, that we are all required to use in the state, and that's just a product of that calculator. So,
you know, I've always wondered what will quote unquote affordable housing do to like a district like Marinwood. I mean, when the developers come, do they pay the taxes, and do they support like property taxes? Because I always thought they got some breaks or something, or do they actually have to put in money towards the schools?
So when a regular developer comes in and even if you, let's take it at a really basic level and you bought a piece of property and you want to buy a house, you have to pay what's called a developer fee. And that goes toward the school district, and then eventually with the thought of, because you're creating this house, this family, you know, whatever is in that house, that eventually students would be attending those schools. And so every year school districts have an opportunity to assess and have their developer fees evaluated. And that's at both the elementary and the high school level. So like Miller Creek is in the San Rafael High School District. So if you built a house in the Miller Creek District, you would actually have to pay developer fees to both Miller Creek Elementary as well as San Rafael High School. And that is a function in the law that schools are allowed to assess those developer fees to assist them.
Is that a one-time fee or?
It is a one-time fee based on the value, the property value of the house assessed at the time that it's being built.
So it doesn't add up each year, they don't have to pay property taxes like a single family homeowner, right?
No, that's a one-time fee for it's the developer fee, but it's like a one-time building fee. And then they have to pay property taxes forever after that based on the assessed value. So people exempt from property taxes are public fees.
So was the question that was the question that you were suggesting that low income housing creates less property taxes for the school district than regular housing? Is that what you were looking to?
I didn't know. I did
Is that
not
what you
know.
were asking?
Yeah, I wanted to know
can you
if the
answer that?
developers, if the.
Public agencies are exempt from various taxes and fees, and so
But not these wealthy developers that come in, they say put in a project and leave and then don't have to pay any taxes.
yeah, if somebody's coming in and building an apartment complex that's going to be a for-profit building, then yeah, they're paying developer fees, and that property is going to be subject to property taxes.
Whoever owns it.
Whoever owns it, yeah.
And the other thing, you were going to provide for me the information on what MCOE could be held liable for potentially for the Oak Hill development if in fact the risk did not pay out and work appropriately. And I never got that email from you.
Yeah, I did note that. I provided the other responses, but that one I'm still gathering information on. So I want to make sure that I provide you accurate information. And so as soon as I have that, I'll.
Because I had asked what the contingency was and how that was going to be handled by MCOE, and you didn't have a contingency prepared for this, but you talked about a contingency arrangement for accounting for the books. How does that work?
So what part of our conversation and your question was what would the potential liability be for Oak Hill? And I don't have exact or specific numbers for you, but in general, that isn't something that would appear in the budget. What a contingent liability is something that appears in your audit, on your books, on your asset and a form to note that there is a potential liability there. But that's not something that would be a part of this first interim budget. That's not something that's what I would call on the books because it's a theoretical liability.
When will that be on the books?
When that would occur once a project is finalized or fully set in stone.
But prior to that, you would know what that contingent liability is.
We would definitely have that information, and I'm currently working to get that for you.
And do you know where that money would come from?
Well, in general, not even specific to this project, but when you have a contingent liability, it's listed in your audit, in your books, and so therefore it would go against any potential ending fund balancing.
Now, Matt Heimel, I think, said that the contingent liability from Nevada, or I think it was Nevada, it could have been San Rafael, was $1 million a year. Do we have more units in those places such that ours would?
That's part of the information. I want to make sure that I get you accurately. So.
I think, do we need to, I'm not sure, but do we need to limit our questions to the first interim right now?
I would say
Are we-
Member McCarthy's questions are tangentially related to the budget, but yeah, we're getting pretty far afield.
Okay.
And we'll also just add for clarification, Nancy, that there is going to be a Oak Hill presentation at the board meeting next month. And I think all of your questions will be appropriately asked at that time as well.
I thought that it wasn't within our purview. That's
Well-
why the agenda item wasn't permitted last time.
It's going to be on the agenda for next. There will be a presentation.
By who?
Be by that one.
Will they be the only one? No one speaking?
I don't.
Patty?
Because I'm on the board.
Okay.
Okay, anything else here? Okay, thank you so much. Great. And
Yeah.
thank you, everybody. Okay, and was there any public comment about?
Oh, no.
No public comment, okay.
There's a card. Public comment? Wait. Did you fill out a card? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know there were cards or where they are.
They're infiltrating. Oh, students.
I apologize to everyone for the delay. Next time I'll go differently. I'm Amy Willard from the Coalition of Sensible Taxpayers. And I had a this brief comment / question of fact or explanation. Number one, I've followed a number of school districts over the years, and they're obviously somewhat different from MCOE. So excuse me if I don't understand what's different about you as far as your financial reports. But I've never seen the idea that a carryover isn't really deficit spending. If you carry over something from the prior year, normally what I'm used to seeing is that you had a prior year ending fund balance. It's divided down into restricted and unrestricted in various categories, and then you start out the new year. And the new year has a budget, and if you don't have enough revenue coming in this year and you draw on your prior reserves, that's called a deficit. So my first question is there anything different here about how your numbers work? The second thing is I'm accustomed to seeing with each first interim or second interim update a current 3-year forecast. I think I saw a kind of a summary one in your presentation. But usually there is accompanying that, like a PowerPoint that explains this quarter, any changes to this quarter, any changes to the 3-year forecast. So I'm hoping that you will provide those in the future and that you will explain this. And I would also like to request a meeting with Bree so that I better understand your finances and don't have to ask these questions in this form if they're not presented in a way that's intelligible to people who usually follow schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Yeah, I think we can do that for sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. We'll move on. 5.02, countywide plan for expelled students, Dr. Lisa Miller and Katie Costa.
Smash.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Right. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Unopposed.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Katie.
Hi. I am excited to bring this item in front of you. Some of you may know I'm on the County Operated Schools and Programs Committee of this California County Superintendents. So we meet a few times a year with people who have my job in all of the counties across the state. And all through last year, we talked about AB 1230. It was sponsored by our friends in Alameda County. And what John implied but maybe didn't say is like all of that work that you've heard directly affects kids in a very positive way. And for each item that he brought up there, I have examples, I have stories of how kids have been positively affected. It's a very student centered organization. So typically the student is expelled to a county. What we see is the expulsion rehabilitation plan. And typically it's like this boilerplate. 20 hours of community service, no suspensions, 100% attendance, et cetera, or you can't come back. Well, if you look at a student who has 10% attendance, get expelled, come to our school and they have 89% attendance, or they get suspended once for bringing marijuana, but their expulsion was for a violent offense or something unrelated. That could be a reason for a student not being readmitted to their school. It's really less, it doesn't occur as much here in this county, but say in Alameda County, it happened a lot where kids would just be in this perpetual cycle of being kicked out of their districts because they couldn't get back because the rehabilitation plans were so ornery. So what this bill does is it creates the mandate for individualized rehabilitation plans. So every student has the right to have a committee made of people who knows that student, create a rehabilitation plan specifically for what they need. So they have anger management issues, they need counseling. This student already gets outside counseling, so we're gonna say X number of hours, et cetera. So each plan is tailored. The other piece of it is that it used to be that districts could say all at the expense of, or all the parents and family have to do it. Now this puts the responsibility on the district to make sure that the student and family can follow through, including with any financial pieces. That's another sort of barrier to students completing a rehabilitation plan, to say like, I'm a middle schooler and I have 40 community service hours. Well, it's really hard to find an organization that will give middle schoolers community service hours without a lot of supervision. And then the second thing it does is the readmissions requirements, they have to review them within 45 days. And it can, if it's denied, if readmission is denied, it can only be extended for another semester instead of another whole year, which used to be a whole year. And then the last piece of it is, you may recall in 2021, you all approved our plan for our countywide plan for expelled youth. And then by mandate, we updated it 3 years later, 2024. Our next update is scheduled for 2027, but to take into consideration the new requirements of AB 1230, we updated it to include the new language, and then we created a template just for districts to use. They would put it on their own letterhead and tailor it as they want, which you all had in your pocket. So that's what we're asking right now, is approval of the insertion of the new language within the triennial plan. You'll still see a triennial update in 2027.
Thank you so much. Board questions or comments? Jill.
Hi, thank you for providing this report, and I'm really happy to see that so many of the districts are using restorative practices. I think that's fantastic. Nonetheless, 2022-23 have the largest number of expulsions since the 2012-2013 school year, 12. To what do you attribute that large number of expulsions?
I have not looked at the data, so it would be pure speculation on my part. That was the semester following kind of the pandemic, and kids were back to school for the first time. I can tell you what happened at my school, where we had significant increase. Was students weren't able, they had a really hard time staying on campus for the whole day. And they would do things that would make the campus unsafe. Not in the like somebody's going to be injured kind of unsafe, but unsafe because they can't follow the directions of the adults, and we'd have to send them home for the afternoon. Every time you do that, it's a suspension. So that's one of the reasons why we saw an increase in drugs and alcohol actually after the pandemic as well. I can't say. Yeah, it was also, I don't know if you're looking at the Marin County stats, there was also the big incident in Nevada where a huge number of kids were suspended because of the violent incident on campus. So that's my speculation.
And why are there not numbers for 2023-24?
Are you looking at the triennial plan?
I'm looking at the countywide plan for prevention.
When we brought that plan forward, which means 2024, the date was not yet available.
Yeah, because that was the 24.
Yes.
Sorry.
But you made a great highlight that we had an opportunity to include it now, as the data is available, and we should have, and we will correct that.
And we didn't fully update it.
Thanks. And do you know if the data on the 12 expulsions shows any disproportionate impact by race, special education status or socioeconomic?
I don't know specifically of that data, no, but generally in Marin County it does. I mean, you just look at the data that I present all the time with my school, which is does not match the demographics in Marin County.
And is there any follow-up with school districts about that issue?
Oh, yeah, all the time in every space and every way in every conversation I have. We show data, we bring it up. I know that all of the work like HSS and ILT looks at it, yeah.
And are we moving in the right direction based on all of this work?
I have not seen recent data, so I have not seen data that is moving us in the right direction.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do any analysis about what happens when a student who's been expelled does return to school? And I'm not talking on a short-term basis, but on any basis. When they return to school, is there generally success?
I do not have specific data analysis on that. We don't follow students after they leave us yet. We're working on it. We're starting to collect better data about when they graduate from us, but when they return back to their schools, we check in on them. There are some students who end up coming back to us because they're so far behind in credits. They wanted to go back, but they couldn't catch up there, so they come back to finish up. But I don't have any specific data for you.
Do you know whether or not, if they're like old enough, do they just need to drop out?
That's interesting. It's not really, it's not relevant to this particular topic, but there's a lot of talk right now because the California just released data on students who leave county operated schools and programs, juvenile halls, and county community schools. And it's all over the map in the state. And I haven't seen the Marin data yet, but ours is very good comparatively. We don't have a lot of dropouts. Comparatively.
Other questions from the board? Comments? Thank you so much. Is there any public comment on this item?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you fill out a card, George?
I did.
Okay.
I'm legal.
Oh, nice.
So I've worked with Marin's community school for over 30 years. I was involved, this is after I retired from Stanford, in the YMCA after school program. So I was with these guys, with young people for years. And I know a great deal about the great work that is being done at community school. And Katie Foster is a rock star in that school. And that group of students is actually a very important panel of experts who can give us a pretty clear picture of what isn't working in schools. And these are often young people with severe difficulties at home. Trauma obviously is a part of it. But we should take advantage of their expertise in guiding us in how to make school more successful for everyone. And I have a little comment about AI. Do we need artificial intelligence because we don't have enough regular intelligence? I would suggest that that is true. So bottom line, I've been a substitute teacher in this county for 3 years in all districts from kindergarten through high school. And I've worked with students across the county. And the two words I hear most frequently about school from every student, well, everyone that I talk to, school is boring and irrelevant. Boring and irrelevant. And I do know that there is an antidote to that. And that is self-directed learning that is focused on what the student is actually interested in. And it works. Project-based learning rocks. But so does individualized teaching, which happens certainly at county community school. And they are rock stars. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Okay, do I hear a motion to this report?
So moved.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. 5.03, approval of the 2025 Marin County Superintendent of Schools salary schedule. So at the November 8th board meeting, we tabled this agenda item, the November 18th board meeting, excuse me. We tabled this agenda item requesting additional information be brought forward. And so the information has been collected, and I'm gonna ask John Lenz to walk us through it.
Thank you, President Nemser. And you'll remember at the 18th meeting, the board asked for additional information. So that information is before you. You have two options before you for the superintendent's salary, and I'll walk you through both options. So option number one, we did collect more information about your request for county superintendent school salary, and then how many are on a step salary. And so we're able to collect 29 total information about 29 county superintendent schools related to their salary. And you will see from your packet that 14 of those are on a step schedule. So it's relatively common. If you look at that sample, roughly 50% of the superintendents are on the step salary. I would direct your attention for this item to this chart, if you will, that's in your packet. So I think it is very informative. First, you'll see at the bottom, because I know this is a question that has come up, there are 58 counties in California. Of those 58, 53 county superintendent schools are elected. There are 5 that are not elected. So in those counties that are listed there, the board does hire and evaluate. In the other 53, they do not. The other thing I want to just make sure you're aware as you dig into this is the salary range, that second column there. There's more to salary than that number. And you have to look at, and we did not compile this story, but I just want to bring it to your attention that many of those contracts are on the salary schedules. There's additional compensation that you will not see there. Some of that is additional sick that would be over what we're doing in Marin, additional paid vacation that would be over what we're doing in Marin, 401k contributions. There are additional stipends for additional degrees or longevity. That is all not present in Marin, but it would be not included in this salary, but in the total contract. The other thing I'm going to bring to your attention is very important is that last column, which is the number of work days. You'll see that Marin has the highest at 234. Many of the others are hovering around 220, 225. And what that represents is almost 2 weeks of additional pay. And in some situations, that's almost 3 weeks of additional pay. So to put that, I guess to put it simply, what it means is when you see the same annual salary for a position, in every instance, that the work year is shorter than in Marin. So what that means in that county, they're working less but getting paid at the same rate. So I think that's an important consideration as you look at that chart and consider that. And the second option that's before you, which is not a stepped 5-year step, it is more traditional approach because the board president heard your questions and concerns from the first option at the November meeting, and the president developed an alternative salary schedule that's more consistent with what the board has done in the past with the county superintendent school salary. It simply reflects a 5% increase that's retroactive to July 1st, and it would remain in place until further board action. So those are your two options for your consideration.
I'll address the first option, which is the salary schedule. And I just want to say thank you so much for providing this data. I think all of the decisions that we make should be tethered to the data. So thank you. The data is helpful but imperfect because it doesn't tell us what level of experience the superintendents have. So it's hard to assess. And I'll also note that even though Tulare indicates that it's on a schedule, and I did click on the link, it shows that the schedule has the same salary for 5 years. So I wouldn't really call that a schedule. But nonetheless, about half of the districts reported are on a schedule, about half are not. So I don't think it leans in one direction or the other. But my position hasn't changed since the last meeting. I think a previous salary schedule eliminates one of the board's few responsibilities, which effectively removes public accountability. I think it creates automatic raises that are disconnected from performance outcomes or changes in county needs. And I think it commits future boards to predetermined compensatory without flexibility. So I continue to be opposed to the salary schedule.
Nancy?
I agree with Jim, which was one of the reasons why I asked for this matter to be tabled to begin with. So I support if there's going to be an increase, that it be for 1 year. Max. And where was that 5% escalator? Is that not in the alternative choice? It's,
Yeah, option 2 is just 5%.
that's it. So the other one,
Is a step with each year being 5%.
right, but then there was the one where it said that it'd be 5% over.
That's in the first option. That's the last step in the first option.
Okay, but it's not in.
It's included in option 1, not included in option 2. Option 2 is solely 5%.
Thank you. I didn't know if this was a different piece of paper than what we know.
Second.
So I also agree. I would prefer to stay with the tradition, even though I love modernization. This is one area where I agree with Jill, though of course we don't evaluate the superintendent. It is one of the few roles that we have. And that would be where I would feel more comfortable.
Great. So my question is, assuming we do not agree with this 5% incremental increase year over year, who would then do the performance review for the superintendent so that we can say, based on his performance this year, he only needs to have a 1% increase, or that he's not really eligible for any increases at all because he did not meet our standards? Who would do that? And do we have a standard for that?
I don't think there's any standard for that. We're not quote unquote permitted to do a performance evaluation.
Right.
The only thing that we could do is say, we see what he does whenever we're able to see what he does, and that's made available to us, and then decide based on that and an evaluation of that, and evaluation of what we know about that to make a conclusion. There may be things that are being done, drawn out of it, that are something that we totally disagree with, or something that we find abhorrent. You know, not saying that that's going to happen, but then we would not be doing a performance evaluation per se, but we would potentially be able to decide not to increase the salary.
But if we don't have any metrics at all, to say, okay, he is performing at a 1, and that corresponds to a X amount of increase. Unless we have that metrics to be able to say, he's actually doing good or he's not doing good. I'm not saying that that we should not have a schedule, but I agree to the idea that it should not be just a standard that we have the salary schedule. But for me, the concern is, how do we really evaluate a person and then say that he actually deserves just X amount? In the same way that I am evaluated by my manager, I evaluate myself, and then my manager evaluates me, and there's a certain increase that I'm entitled to based on that evaluation result. I wanted to know how we would evaluate John's performance. And if there are no metrics, how can we say that he's actually doing good, but he's not doing good, or he's doing good?
How did you evaluate him last year?
Yes, excuse me, there's some other people that have their hands up.
So,
Patty?
I just wanted to say, Lee, to answer your comment, this is not, we're not managers of employees.
Yeah.
We're politicians who are elected. So your evaluation is strictly, unfortunately, political. Whatever that means, you go with that. So that's the way it's set up.
I'd like to know how.
Patty had a comment.
Thank you. Yes, as long as the political was brought up, I thought that the answer to your question is that a much broader group than the 7 of us actually evaluate John, and those are the voters of Marin County. And it rests with them, which is a scrutiny that's larger than what we have. Based on the comprehensive report that John gave earlier, in my opinion, it certainly demonstrates that he's doing a phenomenal job and leading a group of rock stars in a very, very phenomenal way. So I would like to make a motion to approve the 2025 Marin County Superintendent of Schools salary for 1 year, and we will then revisit in another year. Thank you.
Second.
I like that.
I'd like to comment.
Discussion comes after a second.
Yes.
Discussion, Nancy.
I'm just concerned that I don't even know what the basis is for the 5%. And I just heard today for the first time about things that I don't even have any ability to ask any questions about. I understand that there are people here that are very competent and have done a fabulous job. But I also haven't looked at some of the other superintendents and the number of students that they are covering that are not the situation here. As of here, there's only about 308 employees. Yeah, I think 308 is what I put reasonably. Is that correct, right? 308?
Employees,
Yeah, very. And that includes teachers and the whole shebang. That's a small number of people in comparison to like LA Unified. And looking at the outcomes, because we're not really, as a district too, we're not responsible for outcomes and students reading and math skills and how they are getting through the schools. That's just not part of John's responsibility. So I'm not comfortable in making the evaluation that John is entitled to 5% of an increase. I didn't even know until just now of all of the things that MCOE is doing, and I don't really know what John's involvement was was, because it was not something that I feel was reported to me as a board member, which I feel from my perspective was an obligation that he had to this board and was not fulfilled, and was not fulfilled at a time when I could have responded to him as a politician and asked questions about and found more information about it. So I feel as if he has failed in that regard, and I can't support an increase in salary based on just hearing 5 minutes ago what he did on it.
Thank you. Cindy.
I would also just like to thank those of you at the county office who put together this information, which confirms for me that the comp is appropriate. It's market-based, based on similar. I agree with Jill that we don't know the incumbent and how much experience, but it's real data that shows a similar size counties where the superintendent is making a salary within the range. So I feel very comfortable with the proposal on the table.
Thank you, Patty. You had a comment.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize. I meant to mention this earlier. I just wanted to thank John for your comprehensive review of the information. As someone who follows the same pathway, I employ 385 people, and we do the exact same analysis, taking a look at comps. So that was one of the directives from that meeting last month, and I want to thank you for that. So I would call for the question.
I know there's a motion on the floor, but we haven't done public comment on this.
I also would like to comment on the motion. The previous comment I had was based on the salary schedule. So based on the motion to approve a 5% raise, I have similar questions about what the 5% is based on, why that is appropriate. And looking at the comps, I see things a little bit differently. We were just talking offline about Tulare, which has over 300,000 kids, so 10 times as big as Marin County, and their superintendent.
300,000 people.
Yeah.
Excuse me, George.
And if you look at, Contra Costa County, San Mateo County, with serve far larger student populations, their superintendents make less money. This would put John earning more than 76% of the superintendents in the data set, which seems quite high, given the relatively small population of Marin County, as well as the smaller population of minority students compared to some of the other counties like Tulare, I think has 85%.
Thank you.
English language learners. So
I have a question, excuse me. We have a motion and a second, but we haven't had public comment yet. So should we take a break now and go to public comment and then come back
Yeah, I think you need to leave the motion on the floor, leave the public comment. I'm looking for Robert's rule of order, but I think the easiest thing to do, leave the motion on the floor, hear the public comment, and then
Okay,
take
that seems
the
right.
motion. Mhm.
Okay, is there a public comment on this?
Yes, there's one, Lily Willard.
Okay,
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to point out that, the compensation report that you provided was quite helpful. As I look at it and strike off the really big districts, like, San Diego and Alameda, your superintendent is compensated near the top of the pack. 5% is more than ample, and certainly 5% per year compounded is for 5 years would be about 30%. That's an awful lot when you're already pretty high. I would note that, as pointed out here, there hasn't really been a proper performance review. And the way that we got to this level of compensation was picking up from where Mary Jane Burke, who had a ton of experience and was, wildly lauded throughout the county, left off. So I think current superintendent, maybe off to a good start, but really needs to, earn his way to higher compensation. And you remove accountability by giving 5 years. As pointed out, this is one of the few roles, unfortunately, that you have. But one of them is budget oversight. And paying someone as much as part of your budget oversight, so you need to protect your ability to do that. I contest strongly that the evaluation is strictly political. I think that you interact with your superintendent, you see his interactions with the other county districts, and that is feedback that you should take into account. I think also, when it comes around next year, that there should be a better presentation about how you get to 5% or whatever the number is, so that it has context. Thank you.
let me just see if is there any other public comment on this item? Okay, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of making a presentation, because this is the only opportunity that there is. And getting along with other districts, I was very concerned about John's reaction to Town Pines Union High School District, who didn't go along with the Oak Hill project.
They never heard it.
They did. I tried to talk to board members.
They chose not to hear the
He
presentation.
said they refused it.
They
John,
chose not
I
to
don't
hear
want
the
to get into a
presentation.
back and forth
Well,
with you.
I'm
It's
right.
not appropriate. It's not appropriate.
It's
You
not
know that.
appropriate for you to say something that's not true.
It is true, John.
They did not hear the presentation. They chose not to.
Chair, are you going to do something to stop him from interrupting me? It's really inappropriate.
He's finished now.
Well, thank you. But what happened with when Tallahassee Union High School District was having real trouble with its reserves and had other issues, and they had a problem with apparently a couple that was doing the training or helping the African American students at the school. And the school decided they needed to replace them with somebody else. John wrote a letter to the IJ. It was basically calling them a bunch of racists. We're interrupting. So basically, that was calling them racist. And I thought that was really inappropriate. When Mill Valley had a problem with starting TK because they were facing a reserve problem, he basically turned around and he lauds himself for this, but went to Tony Thurman at the state to basically say that, I was right. I won. He said that publicly. I mean, Mill Valley is having to deal with a money issue. And I thought that John was not a Mary Jane Burke, but that it was really inappropriate for him to take such a public bullying approach toward dealing with Mill Valley and towards dealing with Town
I
Pines.
would take exception to the accusation.
You have to wait, Patty, until you're.
Sorry, but I would
You
like
don't
to
know,
call
Patty.
the question.
The rules apply to you just like they apply to me.
Bullying while you are bullying.
It's not appropriate to interrupt, it's not appropriate to interrupt anybody when they're talking, even if we don't like what they're saying, people have the right to speak.
But calling out another board member personally, are
You
are we
can't
gonna continue the entire?
I'm not calling out a board member.
You're calling out the
No,
superintendent.
no, this is a time for a salary evaluation.
You direct
This is
your
the time-
comments, you direct your comments at individuals.
This is a time
And
for,
not business. That's
this
what
is
you're
no,
doing.
this is time for a salary evaluation. And in the salary evaluation, you have to consider the relationships that the superintendent has with the districts. And you can say that's not true. You don't think that it's
I mean,
important.
you're individually lynching your superintendent every meeting.
It's it's a salary evaluation. When am I gonna refer to him?
Well, then you can refer, let's call the next person.
I just don't think Sally's telling her what to do, to call the next person.
Actually, what I'm doing is calling this to order. I want you to finish.
Okay,
And I
thank you.
don't want you to be interrupted. So
Thank you.
That's actually what I was doing.
I appreciate that. There is no other opportunity other than right now and right here for there to be anything said about what the percentage increase is going to be in John's salary evaluation. This is it. Can't be done on some piece of paper. We weren't given something to talk about it elsewhere. We'll say it privately. And so to me, what my understanding is one of the important evaluation factors is how they interact with and how they get along with the superintendents and the board members of other districts. And these were two examples that were brought to my attention about the way in which he handled those matters, which were really inappropriate and were considered bullying. And I don't think that that's the way the superintendent of schools should act for the district superintendent. They are not his subjects. And we have oversight financially, but I don't think it's appropriate to take a public stance that opposes our district schools. And for that reason, I don't believe that as one of the factors that would be on an evaluation document that the salary should be increased by 5%. I believe that it should be 1 year, but I don't believe it should be 5%.
Thank you.
I want to correct a statement I made. Tulare has 100,000 students, so three times as big as Marin. And if you look at comparable districts, San Luis Obispo has about 30,000 students, like Marin, and pays their superintendent 276 in Santa Cruz. So I do think this is at the higher level, certainly above comparable districts, and I still don't understand the 5%. So I'm opposed to a 5% increase in salary.
Another comment.
Yes.
On the 5% clarification, wasn't it that the staff was given a 5% for a while, right? So John was just trying to get the level of what the general staff would receive with their negotiation with their area. That's where the 5% came from.
Yes, Dr. Robinson, every salary schedule is increased by 5% this year, or the administrative team salary schedule. So the recommendation from the president was to increase the superintendent salary schedule by 5%.
I don't see where that has anything to do with the salary of an elected official, particularly when the job is to do a comparison study. And it seems we have a fiscal responsibility and a fiduciary responsibility to not raise an elected official who is not part of the bargaining team, who's not part of the certificated staff, to raise his salary based on that, particularly when, as Jill pointed out, he started out at a salary that was the salary for somebody else who had done a great deal and additional experience in the community. So I think that it is fiscally appropriate for us to do any salary evaluator would come in, like Lee talks about, and saying, look at the comparison, look at this, look at what they recommend not increasing his salary based on the statistics alone, let alone other statistics that are there.
I have a comment. Two things. One is I support the 5% for 1 year. And I believe that, John, as far as I consider him, is a staff member, and I believe he's considered you're considered staff. And if everyone else at the county office got a 5% raise, I feel that I don't know another way to set a standard for this, but it feels right to me. I also just wanted to explain to people who haven't been in education, who have been on the board, that a step of a 3-year or 5-year step chart is sort of common. When I was teaching, there were always steps, and you always knew ahead of time what the next step was. And it was always like a set amount, and it was exciting, and you worked hard. And I'm not saying it was always an exact same percent. It wasn't always 5, but there were always steps that went out for several years. So this isn't an uncommon. I think some people are talking about it like it's so unusual, and it's not unusual. That said, I feel that the tone of the board and what I'm hearing is that we probably wouldn't get a majority vote on a 5-step situation right now, but I do support 5% increase for 1 year.
And that's on the table.
And that's what's on the table now. That's the motion, is that correct? Yes, and it's been seconded. And is there any more discussion? Okay, then let's vote. All those in.
We need a roll call vote.
Yes, we do a roll call vote.
Yes, roll call vote. Do I have to vote?
I support moving forward.
That's a yes.
Yes.
Nancy McCarthy,
Yeah.
Curtis Robinson,
Yes.
Lito Pam,
Yes.
Patty Garbarino,
Yes.
Marilyn Nemser,
Yes,
Joe Sartori.
No.
okay, so the motion passes. Reports and items introduced by board members. So we, the teaching committee, we're in schools efficiency this. Would you like us to come back to you?
Please.
Okay. All right, Jill, the Green County Public Finance Authority.
Hi, thank you. So there was supposed to be a presentation tonight on the status of the Oak Hill project. But the Marin County Board scheduled their meeting for exactly the same time. That's why John is not able to join us until later. So it was rescheduled for next month. So next month in January, there will be an update on the project, the status, the budget, and an opportunity to ask questions about it.
I have a question on that. And had it not been rescheduled, it would have been in the agenda.
It would have been tonight, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Cindy, the Association of California County Boards of Education.
Yeah, so last week I was in Sacramento at the California School Boards Association annual conference with Danielle and John and 3,000 other board members from districts, from county offices of education and superintendents, so all over California. And I wanted to just share 3 highlights. First, many districts, a big topic of conversation was many districts preparing for the significant financial pressures that we've talked about tonight that are coming in the next few years. What Bree has shared was very consistent with what I've heard, and it's highlighted in her memo too on page 2. What was my most compelling session was one that was looking at assessing student human skills in the age of AI and elevating student voice. It was very exciting. Several California districts, not in Marin yet, are using tools that go beyond traditional surveys. And it's allowing students to respond through video and audio prompts, both academic questions and also questions related to social emotional skills. And then secure machine learning at the district. So very private, protecting the data, the students takes the inputs and in real time gives the school leadership an opportunity to see the trends in their student population and to be able to segment in ways to really identify certain groups of students that may be differing and not, so they're not just included in the overall average. And so it was a really exciting example of the power of AI smartly used to help our schools begin to really understand not just the students' academic skills, but their growth and social emotional development. So that was amazing. And then, as John mentioned, with our own CTE growth, that was a big theme from all across the state and hearing about, especially the push to middle school. And that is my report.
Thank you. Wait,
I'm ready now. So, the Efficiency and Effectiveness Committee meets only once every quarter. So we had not had a meeting since the last board meeting, which was in November. And the next one would be on March 11, 2026. And we will be focusing on e-bikes and also on special education program. That's it for me.
thank you. Jill, I don't know, we haven't done anything official yet about JLAC, but you've been going to JLAC, have you? You might have a short report.
I have gone in the past, as part of my role on the Shoreline board, and it's a really fantastic event to hear from our local representatives about what's going on in the education world. So I presume that next year will be one of the even more fascinating
Great.
events. So I would like to attend.
That's terrific.
And may I comment on that? And everybody's invited to
Absolutely.
attend that.
Everybody
Anybody can go.
go to
And I
JLAC.
just want to encourage, there's a meeting on Wednesday of tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning for JLAC.
Okay, and was I just gonna say, oh, I was just gonna say that there are a lot of these, we don't have to limit it to one person if we have two people interested. So just keep that in mind. If you let me know what you are interested in, just because I've mentioned Joe's interested in JLAC doesn't mean we can't have two people. So I've got it.
Yeah, if we're moving on to the board member activities, Cindy's report just brought me back and warmed my heart. And I just wanted to thank her and everyone as the evolution of special education took place in Marin County in the mid-70s. When Governor Reagan at the time opened up the state hospital systems, but then did not fund any communities he sent those children back to. The onset, the development of computers, as we learned, made all things equal for children with special needs. And so your report was just heartwarming again. Thank you.
Thank you. I was, so I don't have a Marin County School Boards Association report, so that's, any other interesting things you did or reports?
Oh, I have a comment. I just have a comment. I just want to commend Jill and Cindy. They're the two newest board members, but they seem to contribute a lot and really seem to engage in a lot of the activities of the board. So I wanted to say.
I agree. Definitely.
I just wanted to comment that there's artwork out in the hallway from students from Smallest High School. So I would recommend that everybody go and take a look. It's really wonderful. And I hope everyone has wonderful.
Thank you. Anything else, anybody? Okay, then, putting this adjourned.
Thank you.
Hey, please,